Welcome to the Prophecy Club. I've got Doug Krieger and Dean McGriff on the phone with me today. And in case you don't know who those guys are, they are Bible prophecy teachers. And they're going to be speaking on the same platform. That's both of them. Hopefully not both at the same time, but both at the same time. You'll have to figure that out by coming. Anyway, they've both been teaching Bible prophecy for over 20 years. They're authored, published, and they're going to be speaking Saturday, January the 4th from 7 to 10:30. The topic will be the final Babylon, America, and the coming Antichrist. The next morning, Sunday morning, from 9:30 to noon, the topic will be prophetic timelines. So if you want to know when some of this stuff is going to be taking place, then you'll want to come to both of them. That's going to be at the Prophecy Club, 2540 Avenue K in Plano on the corner of Park and K, right behind the Whataburger. Suggested door offering is $10 Saturday evening, and of course Sunday morning for church there is not one. Okay, so Doug Krieger, Dean McGriff, welcome back to the Prophecy Club.
Thank you, Stan. Good to be with you.
All right, let's get into some questions. Everybody wants to know where the economy is going. We have been told that the dollar is going to fall probably 50% and eventually be dead. What is your take on that?
Really good question, Stan. You know, I have to always equivocate to a certain extent because, you know, eventually we know that the economy and the dollar will fall and it will end up dead. The question, I guess, is timing. You know, as we know, we're headed toward the mark of the beast where we'll have some kind of a universal, probably electronic currency, and so...
Now, when do you think that would be? When do you think we'll start seeing the mark of the beast?
Well, we won't see that until the midpoint of the tribulation.
Yes.
So it's a ways off. Meanwhile...
Well, I say yes to that. Let me jump in. I think that, in my opinion, I think that will actually show up the first part of the tribulation, but it'll be required in the middle part of the tribulation.
That's very well could be. Very well could be.
All right, Go ahead, though.
Good point. And so at any rate, what we need to do is we need to really step back and say, how quickly does financial change occur? Because on the one hand, I don't see America falling overnight. Japan is a really good example. Back in 1989, it was the number one growing economy in the world, and then it hit a crash, lost three-quarters of the value of its stock markets, of its real estate and everything, and has not really recovered until this year. It's actually started to finally recover. But meanwhile, they tried everything we've done. They went into debt. They did public works. They bailed out banks. They did everything, and Japan has maintained itself. And so the United States as an economy, it's not necessarily defending our policies, which are really not defensible and not sustainable over the long haul. But on the other hand, we certainly have the wealth to sustain ourselves for another 10 years or so, which is, and we're still 5 times larger than China. We're still 50 times larger than Saudi Arabia. You know, we are the largest economy in the world, and you just don't take down a country of this size very quickly.
But don't you think that that is what their goal is? They've got to take down America if they're going to have a world financial system, if they're going to have a world government, all of their world, you know, plans, world this, world that, they've got to take America out.
And I mean, they don't necessarily take America out.
Okay, all right, I agree with that.
They take the dollar out. You know, they take out and they put back in a financial system that makes more sense. But
take America down from being the number one guy on the block. In other words, they've got to do... The only thing standing between them and their new world order is America. So obviously they've got to remove that. Maybe that's the word to use. They've got to remove America from being the world's police officer. Well,
again, this may be where we differ a little bit, because I see America as being the chief honcho police officer, if you will, and the head of the New World Order, not the tail or anything else. That's part of our argument, that America will be in charge, if you will, of this whole process. So the rich are going to get richer, the poor are going to get poorer. That's Revelation 6. black horse of the apocalypse, and you're weighing the balance, and you work all day long for your barley, and but you don't touch the wine or the oil. So the wealthy people are still wealthy, the poor people are getting poorer, but the essence of what America is as a country is still extremely wealthy. We still have the natural resources and the human resources. And then one of the game changers is that America is now the number one oil producer in the world. And we're finding, according to USGS estimates, OPEC has 1.2 trillion barrels of oil, and USGS estimates that the United States has about 10 trillion barrels of oil and our oil shale and so forth. So being in Texas, you should appreciate what's happened to Midland and all of these places where the oil fields were once dead.
They are booming, yes. They're booming. As a matter of fact, I grew up in Midland, Odessa, West Texas area, and so I have a lot of friends there, and I was just talking recently to a nephew that I have there that still lives there, and he says, if you have a house, you're doing good. Most people that are going there now are living in tents. I mean, right. The price of everything has gone through the roof. It is like boom town, like you can't believe, all in West Texas. So if you really need a job, you might want to consider taking a trip to West Texas and check it out.
And this is happening, in a sense, all over the United States. I mean, places in Pennsylvania that were dead, those oil fields, they were actually one of the first that we had, as long with Texas, and then, of course, North Dakota and the bacon. These things are just absolutely booming.
Well, with the new technology, they go into old wells that were sealed up and dry right. and long forgotten. They open them back up, and many of them have now replenished themselves with oil, which, of course, does away with the old idea that oil comes from pre-flood plants and animals. That is, unless they've been able to bury some more pre-flood plants and animals, how could a well come back? Okay, so it does come back. And then, of course, new technology now, they're able to pull more oil out of wells that were long thought dry.
And so there's twice as much there now as what they took out originally.
Oh, yes. Right.
What this means is it means our piddly little debt of a few trillion, of $16 trillion and so forth, it's really nothing compared to these resources that are coming on, which means as a country, one of the arguments that we have is the United States, at the end of World War II, injected itself into the economy of practically every country in the world. We rebuilt Europe through the Marshall Plan, but one of the things that you don't know is that we put our people on the board of directors of Volkswagen and Mercedes and BMW and all of these other companies, and in Japan, and we did the same thing, and so that our tentacles reach out into every country in the world so that we are the puppet master pulling those strings.
Oh, absolutely. There is no question. America has tentacles stretching around the globe, and there is not a place that it does not touch.
Right. And we have the military, we have the bases, we used to think that MAD was Mothers Against Drunk Drivers. It's really was originally MAD was
mutually assured destruction. That's right.
So that if someone were to be foolish enough to attack America, we have submarines sitting off the coast of practically every country with nuclear weapons on it, and we could take that country off the face of the earth.
Actually, let me just address that question. I have been trying to ascertain this, but it seems to me like I remember one evening on the 6 o'clock news, I believe it was George Bush Jr. that told them to take all of the nuclear weapons off of all of the sea-going vessels. And I would love to hear that we still have nuclear weapons on our sea-going vessels, because I was told there that they were taken off. So can you verify that? Do we really have those in our submarines and our sea-going vessels? Do they really have nuclear warheads on there now, or do they have to dock and load them?
It's my understanding that, for example, on submarines, that about half of them still have nuclear weapons, yes.
Well, if anybody else out there can verify that, please send me an email at askstan@prophecyclub.com.
I was a captain in military intelligence and worked in this whole area of identifying weaponry, and it's very interesting. Although all of this stuff is supposedly classified, there's a service called Jane's, and Jane's has a book of destroyers and tanks and this and that. Jane has probably the best inventory of every single nuclear weapon in the world and every country in the world. It's quite incredible. So that would be the source to look at, because for some reason their information is quite accurate.
Okay, we'll have to check that out. Okay, so back to the economy. What do you see happening to the economy over the next couple of years?
I think that we're going to see a tremendous boom because of this oil and natural gas. We're going to have a resurgence in our economy in the next few years. That unlike every major resurgence that we've had in our economy has basically been because of our cheap energy. That's what's set the United States apart from the rest of the world. In the turn of the century, 20th century, we discovered oil, and we had this incredible boom as a result. And then we had another resurgence at the end of during and at the end of World War II. And then it looked like, oh my gosh, peak oil, it was all over. And we started literally bleeding to the Middle East, buying oil from them. And now we don't have to do that. We're in a position of being able to export more than any country in the Middle East, which also puts the Arab countries in a very, very bad position because they are about to lose.
We'll be right back after this message. The next speakers at the Prophecy Club are Doug Krieger and Dean McGriff. Both prophecy teachers will be speaking on the same platform. Both have been teaching Bible prophecy for over 20 years, both authored and published. They will be speaking Saturday evening, January the 4th, from 7 to 10:30. The topic will be The Final Babylon, America, and the Coming Antichrist. The next morning, Sunday morning, from 9:30 to noon, the topic will be Prophetic Timelines. So you get two seasoned speakers, one on America in Bible prophecy and when the last days might arrive. That's at the Prophecy Club, 2540 K Avenue in Plano, on the corner of Park and K behind the Whataburger. So that's two speakers Saturday evening, January 4th from 7 to 10:30 on The Final Babylon, America, and the Coming Antichrist. And then Sunday morning from 9:30 to noon on the topic Prophetic Timelines. Saturday suggested door offering $10, no door offering on Sunday for church. See you there! And now, back to the program.
Bad position because they are about to lose. We're going to see oil go back down to $30, $40 a barrel.
Really?
Oh, I would think so.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, in 2009 it did.
Oh, yeah, yes. Now, all right, what about the global currency reset, the plan that without warning overnight they're going to reset the value of 204 currencies? How does that fit in?
The point of all of that is that a currency is based upon the value of the resources of a country. And I would argue that in terms of our natural resources, we certainly have a value that we're not going to see the United States drop vis-a-vis other countries.
And so, in fact, we now have a 10 trillion barrels of recoverable oil that is our resource, not even counting Alaska.
Right.
Well, if we are on a level playing field, then yes, I agree with you. The USGS came out with some reports here 3-4 years ago that said that America, and that's just the lower 48, not including Alaska, okay?
Right.
Just the lower 48 has more recoverable oil than the rest of the world combined, okay?
Absolutely.
But if you believe that gold and silver is really priced according to supply and demand, or oil, or just about anything else on the globe, then I think you probably also believe that actually there was a couple of airlines that were hijacked by Muslims with box cutters and flown into the World Trade Center. In other words, I don't think that we're living on a level playing field. I think that there are people behind the scenes that are pulling the strings, the levers, so to speak. In other words, the price of oil and gas and gold and diamonds and everything else is very controlled. And just because a nation has a certain amount of wealth within it does not necessarily mean that their currency is high.
Well, it's controlled, but that's the whole idea of the reset. The United States is still very much the breadbasket of the world. We have tremendous agricultural resources. We have timber. We have minerals. We still have a tremendous amount of wealth.
Yes.
Within the country, and that's the whole idea. Is that one of the reasons that when they talk about the global reset, they're talking about a value-based currency, and that there isn't enough gold in the world to really base everything on that. So then what they have to do is they take a country and they say, okay, Mexico, what do you have? You have oil, you have yucca, you have, you make tequila, you make this, you make that. This, we can therefore determine what the value of the peso.
Okay, so you're seeing some pretty positive days ahead for the American dollar and the U.S.
Right.
Now, how does that fit in with your timeline about Daniel's 70th week? When do you see the tribulation starting, and do you see everything pretty much wonderful prior to the start of the 7-year tribulation, or do you see World War III happening before then? What do you see happening over the next 10 years, let's say?
I pass this baton to my compadre here.
Okay.
Well, this is Doug Krieger here now.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
The signs in the heaven and the earth before and during the 70th week of Daniel is what you're alluding to. We'll be speaking on the 6,000 years of human history, times up the 490-year epic timeline. Several very important scriptures in Genesis pave the way and are foundational as to the whole concept of 6,000 years being the time frame of human history as we know it from Adam's creation to the present. In Genesis 6:3, Stan, it says, "And the Lord said, My spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years."
We believe those are jubilees, yes.
Yes, those are Jubilee cycles, what they call long cycles, meaning 50 years.
And we are in the last cycle. We are in the 120th cycle right now, yes.
Yes, we are really in this last cycle. In Daniel, it says, at the appointed time, and by the way, that phraseology, and I'll speak to this, 120 years, we know that was given to Noah. It was more than 300 years that Noah lived after the flood. Shem lived, and that, by the way, that promise is given at Shem's birth. This is immediately following Shem's birth, that you hear this 120 years. That phrase in Hebrew is very profound, and it has profound meaning in the sense of 490 years or the 49 years or the 490-year epical cycles. Actually, there are 12 in human history, 490 of those epical 490-year cycles. And then at the tail end, there is an additional 120 years. So if you multiply 12 times 490 plus 120 years, you will get precisely 6,000. Very, very interesting. And so when you look at the prophecy of the 70th week of Daniel, as we know, these are heptads, and therefore it is a total of 490 years that is spoken of in the prophecy that was given in Daniel 9:24 through 27. And so at the appointed time, the end shall be. But you, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book until the time of the end. Then many shall run to and fro and search anxiously through the book, and knowledge of God's purposes as revealed by his prophets shall be increased and become great. That's found in Daniel 8:19 and in Daniel 12:4 in the Amplified Version. And so what we're looking at here are the time of the end is certainly upon us. And then when he created the heavens and the earth, it's very clear there were lights in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day and the night, and let them be for signs and seasons, for days and for years. And so immediately, it's interesting, after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from the heavens, and the sun will become black as sackcloth of hair, and the whole moon became like unto blood. That's in Matthew 24:30 and Revelation 6:12 and 13. So we have these signs in the heavens. Now, the big talk with Hagee's book on the 4 blood moons and Mark Biltz's discovery of the 4 blood moons, that the blood moon is directly connected with what would be happening in Israel. There's a lot on this that we could go into, but we don't have the time right now, but we might do this when we meet together.
And you also have all of this in a really nice chart as you go through and explain it, right?
We have a really nice chart on this. And then the solar eclipses are what are incredibly fascinating. Now, what I've discovered is this. The tetrad, the 4 blood moons, 2 on a Passover, 2 on Sukkot, or the Feast of Tabernacles. Somehow, Mark Biltz, again, says that those tetrads are very rare. A group of them, that's 4, took place around 1948, 49, during Israel's rebirth. Another group of these tetrads took place around 1967, 68, when Israel took Jerusalem as in its entirety jurisdiction. In the coming 2014 and 2015, on those Passover days and on those Feast of Tabernacle days, that's the 1st and the 7th Feast of Israel, the Feast of the Lord, those 4 blood moons will occur on the planet again. And therefore, Mark says, and I do agree with him, they have something to do with the 70th week of Daniel. Now, here's what I believe they have to do with that week. I believe that the commencement of the 70th week of Daniel will be on a Passover, and that will be the expectation of a messianic figure that will come about that will impose this defense pact, peace treaty, weapons of mass destruction being banned, the many, meaning the nations, Israeli leadership, all will concur that we've got to have peace in our time. And so this will be the Passover that will commence the beginning of the 70th week, and the declaration of the white horse, which we've have been looking at for some time now, orchestrating peace in our time. And then in the middle of the week, it says that this prince who is to come, this messianic figure, will terminate the sacrifice that has been reinstituted and will, in essence, break the Brit Amin, break the covenant, and stop the sacrifice. And, of course, he'll declare himself as God in the temple of God, and therefore his title will be changed from Antichrist or the false Messiah to the beast. Now, that would happen on a Feast of Tabernacles. Therefore, Passover is the Antichrist, and then the Feast of Tabernacles would signal the commencement of the reign of the beast, which would be in the midst of the week. Now, what is very interesting, and of course the name of this book that everybody's talking about, The Final Babylon, has everything to do with the identity of Babylon. And we have made it very clear. We do not believe, based upon the Scripture, that Islam constitutes the Antichrist, even though, and great brothers, Joel Rosenberg, Joel Richardson, Joe Farah, Walid Shumbat, all of these dear brothers are affirming that Islam is the future Antichrist. Okay, we don't. Okay, we don't see that at all. We see that Islam is not the Antichrist. Now, a new thing that's...
Okay, let me jump in here. Let me clarify. What are you actually saying, then, will occur in 2014 or 2015 or both? Are you saying that the tribulation would likely start in either 2014 or 2015 on some Passover? Is that what you're saying?
Well, what we are saying here is there is a solar eclipse in the midst of this tetrad. Okay, 2014. Then in the midst of it, there's a Passover and a Sukkot. Then in 2015, 20th of March, there is a total solar eclipse. The phenomenon, the sun turned black like sackcloth made of goat hair. Okay? And that is a, if you would, a portent, a sign to the Gentile world powers of pending judgment. The whole moon is turned blood red again on 4 April 2015. there's a meteor shower, big meteor shower, like stars in the sky fall to the earth on 12 August 2015. What Mark Biltz is saying is that according to Judaism, this day, the 20th of March, the total solar eclipse, 2015, Adam was created on that day of 20 March and crowned God as king. That's the creation of Adam according to rabbinical tradition. He was created on the 20th of March. This also begins what they call a Shemitah year, the seventh for the land to rest. The last two Shemitah years on Rosh Hashanah, there was a global economic catastrophe. In 2001, the Dow fell 7%. In 2008, the Dow fell 7% again. He is suggesting, this is Mark Biltz out of Tacoma, Washington, El Shaddai. 2015, could this be our third strike and a major collapse of the global economy? That's what he is suggesting, that at the beginning, on 20 March 2015, this could be what is happening. The eclipse of the sun signals danger to the nations, and of the moon, danger to Israel. This is then followed by the total lunar eclipse, blood moon, on the Feast of Tabernacles. Not only that, according to NASA, this total blood moon on 9/28/15, which is at the Feast of Tabernacles, will be at perigee. That means the closest to the earth, meaning it will be a supermoon and seen in Jerusalem during the Feast of Sukkot, while the Jewish people will be dwelling outside in their Sukkots looking up toward the heavens.
I love what you're saying, but we're running out of time. Make a mark, and let's continue it in tomorrow's program. So, folks, you're going to continue listen to this in the next program. So let me encourage you to make a note. First of all, come to the meetings. Saturday evening, January 4th from 7 to 10:30 on the Final Babylon. Then the next morning, Sunday morning, that is from 9:30 to noon, is going to be on the timelines. And that's at the Prophecy Club, 2540 K Avenue in Plano, on the corner of Park and K, right behind the Whataburger. And if you'd like to have their DVDs, each DVD, as you know, we normally ask a donation of $30 for them. But you can, if you call today, you can get both DVDs for a gift of just $30 to the ministry. That's 785-266-1112. I repeat it, 785-266-1112 or prophecyclub.com. Anyone ask for the Doug Krieger, Dean McGriff 2 DVDs, and we will get those right out to you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your prayers, and Happy New Year. May you have a prosperous and healthy New Year. God bless.
Prayerfully consider joining the fight for souls by giving your financial support. We thank you.
Now from the Prophecy Club, some exciting opportunities for you. The next speakers at the Prophecy Club are Doug Krieger and Dean McGriff. Both prophecy teachers will be speaking on the same platform. Both have been teaching Bible prophecy for over 20 years, both authored and published. They will be speaking Saturday evening, January the 4th, from 7 to 10:30. The topic will be The Final Babylon, America, and the Coming Antichrist. The next morning, Sunday morning, from 9:30 to noon, the topic will be Prophetic Timelines. So you get two seasoned speakers, one on America in Bible prophecy and when the last days might arrive. That's at the Prophecy Club, 2540 K Avenue in Plano, on the corner of Park and K behind the Whataburger. So that's two speakers Saturday evening, January 4th from 7 to 10:30 on The Final Babylon, America, and the Coming Antichrist. And then at the burning bush, God promised to give Moses a land flowing with milk and honey. We believe the milk is natural gas and the honey is yellow-colored crude oil. There are 30 scriptures in the Bible which say in the last days massive amounts of oil will be discovered in Israel, and we believe we've been given the directive to use this prophesied oil and gas to fund worldwide soul winning. If you have questions about our vision, call 877-OIL-ISRAEL or 877-645-4772.